curious about. It was 1989. So back then, how many people knew about Indian culture at all, even in the UK?
It was in the early 80s, my father first heard about Mahabharata with Jean-Claude Carrière. And at that point, no one knew much about India. This is pre-internet. One of the first things that they did once they'd come to the conclusion that they wanted to do a production without knowing quite what they were going to do was to go on a trip to India and to visit India, really, and all especially southern India, crisscrossing it, visiting temples, cities, meeting scholars, seeing local productions, going to the villages, and doing all this kind of exploratory work that my father loved, of research. And I was very fortunate because although I was in high school, I was already starting, I was very interested in film and photography, and my father said, would I go with them and provide the photographic documents that they were going to need to continue their research. Off we went for 2 months to India, and I was working as the official photographer of this research trip.
How old were you? And
I was 15.
15.
I was 15
What was
the
your
first time.
What was your experience, first impression of what you saw there?
You know, I'd seen a lot of beautiful photographs of India, like we all have now. But I'd seen, you know, the mist on the Ganges. I'd seen people with beautiful colored saris. I'd seen all that. What I hadn't seen were, you know, the beggars, the people with arms and legs cut off at traffic lights. I'd say the poverty, the horror of the poverty, especially in a very big city like Bombay in those days, was very, very upsetting. But in parallel to that, it was the most extraordinarily culturally vibrant, diverse, exciting, complex place, as well as being noisy and smelly and polluted. But these contradictory things are actually what made it so incredibly exciting to be there.
And how was it to watch your father working on that?
It was a permanent discussion of really, you know, how to tell this huge story, in what form it could be told, should it be done, you know, what could the narrative be, the main narrative arc be. And so a lot of the work that you refer to was going on in their heads. The story in itself is universal, and you can transpose it really to, you know, pretty much any other culture, and it will be there. And what my father did was he brought actors from lots of different cultures and musicians from 5 different countries to do something that would be an additive process to enrich the original text as much as possible, the original stories, by bringing in an extra layer to make it, you know, I'd say also more accessible for non-Indian audiences.
You spent, I think, nearly 5 years trying to to secure this project.
Yes.
Because I think there were some challenges with the rights. Can you talk about this?
Yes, I can. What had happened was that the producer had, the original producer had put together the film in 1989, and it premiered at the Venice Film Festival. And after that, it had a very successful run in various countries, and then it sort of vanished. There weren't any good prints of the film, and it wasn't being shown. And my father didn't understand why, but this is often the case. He didn't own the film, he didn't have any rights. And I asked the producer what was going on. He was always a little bit vague about why it wasn't being shown. And then a few years ago, he died. And so I contacted his estate, his lawyers, and I said, look, could I please buy my father's film back, because otherwise it will never be seen. And they agreed. It took quite a long time to sort that out. And having managed to get them back, I then discovered that the producer owed a lot of money to a bank, and he'd put the film up as collateral. And so actually he didn't really own it anymore. And so suddenly I found myself having to take apart this, you know, terrible spaghetti of money owed to left, right, and center, And that took another 2 or so years just to sort that out, to be able to buy back those debts and to be able to move forward with the restoration. And then the restoration itself took another long time, and we finished 1 week before the start of the festival. It was very, very close.
Yeah. What do you think your father would say if he would know which difficulties you have with this? I think you never mentioned this to your father, right?
No, I didn't. I
So what
think he
would be
would have, I think he would have been, had he known how bad the situation was, he would have been very upset. So I didn't tell him. Now, if he were here, he would be so immensely happy and proud. And we have some of the actors came here for the premiere, his production designer, and it's been a very, very beautiful and emotional moment that we've shared. So in a way, he is here, and he is present with us at all times.
So I'm wondering, because we're talking about contemporary times, so what do you think the contemporary today's audience will take away from this film, from this epic?
The thing that's very interesting in Mahabharata is it's thousands of years old, but it deals with subjects that are on the front page of newspapers today, of cousins killing cousins, violence in the streets, burnt out cities due to catastrophic climate change, flooding. And I think what's great with the Mahabharata is that it's a message of hope. It says, yes, things are complex, they're difficult, they are not black and white, good or bad. It's never that simple, but everything is in a cycle, and there will be something else, and there will be a rebirth, and the human spirit will live on.
Another question back to the other production. I mean, your father did first, it was a stage, right? It was a play, 9 hours. Then it was, I think, TV project and the film. So why do you think it involves so many stages?
After having toured for several years, multiple continents, to sold out shows everywhere, it was really, there was such a demand still for people to see the Mahabharata, and my father always wanted to make a film of it. So the reality of film going is that it was not possible to do a 9-hour film. And even a 6-hour film was complicated. So the idea was to make at the same time a TV series, 3 times 2 hours or 6 times 1 hour, and a 3-hour movie version. And these were made simultaneously. And as of today, we've restored the 3-hour movie version, and the next project will be to do the 6-hour TV version.
So that will be the next one.
And that's going to be the next project, yes.
All right.
But I have to raise the money for it first.
All right. And probably the last question, we already tried to speak about this, contemporary events, right? So we are kind of in the same stage. We are humans still resolving our conflicts with wars. Nothing has changed, as you mentioned. So what do you think people or politicians or everyone can learn from this epic, from this old Indian
I think that,
legend?
that there is a certain moral way one needs to live one's life, and that doing everything you can just out of the ambition for re-election is not a way to live one's life, and that no person is completely good, but no person is completely bad. And you cannot put everything into black and white, good or bad, simplification. It's an incredibly rich, complex universe that we live in. And there's no reason not to enjoy the complexity or to be frightened of the complexity. And that more and more people are simplifying things that are too complicated, complex to be simplified, and shouldn't be, because people are fundamentally intelligent and will understand things if one takes the time to explain.
Is it what you learned from this epic personally?
And it's definitely something that I've learned from this. Yes.